Alright, so for my pre-algebra folks here, we are getting started here with our measurement unit. And the first thing we're going to do with this measurement unit is we're going to do what's called unit conversions. And unit conversions means we're changing from one unit to another unit. So maybe we have a certain number of inches and we want to change that to feet, or we want to change to centimeters. We want to change the units with which we're measuring. Now you should have a sheet, a little half sheet of paper that shows what I just pasted here below with these different kind of equations with weight, mass, time, distance, volume, with like 1 pound equals 16 ounces, 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. These are what are generally known as conversion rates or conversion factors. Okay? And indeed they are what are going to help us when we want to make these changes from inches to feet, or inches to centimeters, or from one unit to another. So I'm just going to do a few examples here for you to show you one method, one way that we can use these conversion rates or conversion factors to convert between units, to change from one unit to another. So we'll do a couple examples here. So example 1, we will convert 10 pounds to ounces. So maybe we're at a store or something like that, or whatever. We buy 10 pounds of something, but we want to break it down and say, well, maybe it's priced per ounce. We want to know how many ounces that is. Could be a lot of reasons why we want to know how many ounces we have for a given number of pounds. So one of the first things we want to make sure we know is what's the relationship between our pounds and our ounces. And this is where that little half sheet that you have, that little cheat sheet, if you notice on there, we go, oh, we've got this relationship. We have 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So that's the first thing I'm going to write down here, because I'm just going to write that. I'm going to write that conversion rate. I'm going to write that factor, that 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces. Okay, that's what I'm going to start with there. Now remember, this is one method to solve. This is by no means the only method we can use to solve, but this is the way that I like to do it. So I start with that conversion rate. I start with that conversion factor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well now I've got 10 pounds and I want to convert that to ounces. So here's what I'm going to do with my conversion factor. I'm going to take 1 pound and I'm going to take the 16 ounces and I'm going to make a fraction on both sides. So that's me drawing a fraction bar there. And now the 10 pounds, I just have to decide, should that go over here on the left or should that go over here on the right? So think about that to yourself for a little bit. Should the 10 pounds go over here on the left, or should the 10 pounds go over here on the right? And you can pause it if you want. But the 10 pounds should go on the left side, because that's where we have the 1 pound. So pounds on the left on the top, pounds on the left on the bottom. Okay, we're being consistent. We're putting pounds on the left for the top and the bottom. And we're trying to figure out how many ounces is this. So you can say it's X ounces, or use a question mark. I don't know how many ounces it is. Excuse me, I don't know how many ounces it is. And look at what we've created. We've created a good old-fashioned proportion. Okay, we've seen these before with the percents unit. We have a proportion, and we can solve that by cross multiplying and dividing. So to solve this, what I'm going to do, I will cross multiply the numbers that are diagonal. I will do 16 times 10, or 10 times 16, and then I will divide by the 1. And when I do that, I come up with 160, and if you're wondering, that's 160 what? That would be ounces. That is 160 ounces. Okay, so if you ever do buy 10 pounds of whatever, or if you have 10 pounds of something, and for whatever reason you need to talk about how many ounces that is, you can say, oh, well, that's really, I've got 10 pounds of this thing, that's 160 ounces. So to do another example here, and we'll keep the same units here. We'll keep it here within pounds and ounces. Whoops, we'll do pounds and ounces still here. But now we're going to switch things up a little bit. Instead of having 10 pounds and wanting to change that to ounces, now I've got 10 ounces and I want to change that to pounds. So again, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this conversion factor, this conversion rate that gives me a relationship between pounds and ounces, and that it tells me that 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So that's the very first thing that I would have you write down, just 1 pound equals 16 ounces. Now, you might have that memorized already, you might already know that. As we continue working here, you might get to the point where you have it memorized, but the good news is you don't have to memorize any of these conversion rates because you get to use this little sheet on the test. Okay? I don't care if you memorize the conversion rates, I want you to know how to use them. So the first thing here is to write out that conversion rate, 1 pound equals 16 ounces. Now I'm going to create a proportion. I'm going to make fractions out of both sides. And the question is, where does the 10 ounces go? Should I put the 10 ounces on the bottom left or should I put the 10 ounces on the bottom right? And again, if you want to pause the video and you want to think about that, where does the 10 ounces go? But because I have the 16 ounces on the right and this is 10 ounces, I want to put the 10 ounces with the 16 ounces. So 10 ounces is going to go on the right here. And I'm trying to figure out how many pounds, so I don't know that. So I'll call that X, or I'll put a question mark, or what have you. Okay. So now once again, this is a proportion. It's a fraction equal to another fraction, but I don't know one of the numbers. So I can cross multiply and divide. So I can do 10 times 1, or 1 times 10, and divide by 16. And when I do that, I believe I get 0.625 pounds. So not even a whole pound. Okay, that would be my answer there. And that makes sense because I need 16 ounces to make a whole pound. I have less than 16 ounces. I only have 10 ounces. So this seems like a reasonable answer. We've talked about that, I think, before, about thinking about, is your answer reasonable? And I say, yeah, that's reasonable. It's less than a whole pound. 10 ounces is not 16 ounces. I need 16 ounces to make a pound. I only have 10, so I don't have a whole pound. I only have 0.625 pounds. Okay, we'll look at a few more examples here. So the next example, we're going to convert 60 feet to yards. Maybe I made a measurement and I said, oh, it's a length or distance of 60 feet, but I was told, you know what, we want that measured in yards, not feet. So I go, oh, okay, well, because I'm good at math, I can figure that out for you here. I need the conversion factor. I need to know the relationship between yards and feet, and that's the very first thing I'm going to write down here. It's 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So that's what I'm going to start with here. Okay, so notice I'm not even using this 60 feet yet, not right away. I'm just going to that conversion factor. I'm talking about feet and yards, and I say, what's the relationship between feet and yards? This number right here, I don't even care about right away at the beginning. Okay? But once I have that conversion factor there, now I'm going to create a proportion. I'm going to make fractions out of the left side and the right side, and I have to decide where does the 60 go. Because it's 60 feet, I'm guessing you know this by now, it's got to go underneath the 3 feet. It's got to go on the right. And we don't know right now how many yards that is. So call it X, call it a question mark. Leave it blank, however you want to signify we don't know it. Okay. Now I'm going to solve that proportion. I'm going to cross multiply and divide. I'm going to do 1 times 60 or 60 times 1 and divide by 3. And that's going to give me 20. And that would be, I'm figuring out the number of yards here, so that is 20 yards. So 60 feet is 20 yards. And now we'll go the other way. We'll convert 60 yards to feet. And I love to do this. I think some of you have kind of learned this from me, that I love to switch things up. To say, what if we just switch feet and yards? So we still got the 60, but we switch the feet and the yards. Okay. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that conversion factor. It's still the same conversion factor. Whoops. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. Again, I haven't even used this 60 yet because I want yards and feet. I want that relationship between yards and feet. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. Oh, also too, real quick, don't forget English is really fun because the plural is feet, the singular is foot. Don't ask me, I'm just a math teacher. So it's 1 foot, 2 or more feet. Okay. But here we go. So 1 yard equals 3 feet. That's my conversion factor. Make fractions out of both of those, and now this 60 yards, I have to decide where does the 60 yards go. Okay, because it's yards, I want to put it underneath the 1 yard. I'm going to abbreviate here. I'm going to put YD. And then I don't know how many feet that is. So there's a setup of my proportion. Again, we did that a whole bunch with our percentages, and we're going to continue to do these proportions, these equal fractions with our measurements. So cross multiply and divide here. We've got 60 times 3, or 3 times 60, and then we'll divide that by 1, and we get 180, and that would be 180 feet that we were looking for. So 60 feet would be 20 yards. 60 yards would be 180 feet. Okay, and then 2 more examples here real quick. So example 5 here, we're going to convert 84 hours to days. How many, if you have 84 hours, how many full days would that be equivalent to? How many full days would that be equal to? So once again, I'm going to start here with my conversion rate. And over there on the left, I see it. It's 1 day is equal to 24 hours. That one you probably knew already without this little cheat sheet, but we'll just circle it up here just in case anyways. We've got 1 day equal to 24 hours. Okay. So once again, I'm going to start with that. I'm not even using the 84 yet. I'm starting just with that conversion rate, the relationship between days and hours, hours and days. Okay, 1 day is equal to 24 hours. Now I'll bring in the 84. I'll make a fraction out of that, and I'll decide where to put that 84. Because it's hours, I want it over here on the right. Where I put it on the right, I want it under the 24 hours. Okay, and I'm abbreviating hours as HR. And I don't know how many days that is. Oops, let's make that a little bit nicer. I don't know how many days that is, but that's what I'm going to figure out. Okay, so start with the conversion rate. 1 day equals 24 hours. Make fractions. Take this number to convert and put it in the appropriate place. Hours goes under hours, days goes under days. Okay, once you got that set up, the rest of this is pretty simple. We're going to solve this proportion, cross multiply and divide. 84 times 1, or 1 times 84, and we're going to divide that by 24, and that is going to give us, I believe, 3.5, but let me double check here. Yes, it's going to be 3.5, so that's 3.5 days. Let's make that 3 a little bit nicer. 3.5 days, 3.5 days exactly. Okay. So that's what we would have there. 84 hours is the same as 3.5 days. Alright, and if you've noticed a pattern so far between example 1 and example 2, example 3 and example 4, example 5 was change 84 hours to days. In example 6, we're going to take 84 days and change it to hours. Same number, but now we're changing the units. So as I've done in all the other 5 examples, the first thing I'm going to start with is not worry about that 84, but worry about the days and the hours and my conversion rate. That 1 day is 24 hours. That's the very first thing I want to do here. This is my strategy for it. Once again, there are other strategies you might use, but this is the one that I like. So once I have that conversion rate written down, I will create fractions here, and then where do I put that 84 days? I put it underneath the 1 day, because the units match. Okay, 1 day on top, 84 days on the bottom. We're converting this to hours, so call it X, call it a question mark, leave it blank. There is my proportion. And once again, once I've got that proportion, the rest of it is pretty simple. Cross multiply and divide. We're going to multiply the 84 times 24, or 24 times 84, and we're going to divide by that 1. And when we do that, I believe this is going to be a little bit bigger number. 2016. And and that would be 2016 hours. Let's write that a little bit better. 2016 hours. That's what we have there. So I hope this helped you get started. If you haven't taken a look yet, what I would have you do is in your blue packet, I would have you start on the first few pages in there. See what you can do with this. I hope these examples helped you. You may have recognized some shortcuts because all of these examples involved a 1. You were either multiplying by with a 1 or you were dividing by a 1. So some of you, if you didn't know some shortcuts before, you might have figured out some shortcuts. But remember, this way always works. Whether the numbers are easy or the numbers are difficult, this strategy of using a proportion will always work for you. So I hope that you were able to try out that blue packet with the first few pages. Again, use this little cheat sheet, this little half sheet that you have there. Use those conversion rates or those conversion factors on there.